Okay, so in this week's guitar lesson, we're going to talk about how to integrate some simple triads into your blues lead to get a more sophisticated or intentional sound. And it's really easy to do. In like 10 minutes, you're going to be able to start doing this. So once you can visualize this, there's nothing complicated. There's no bar chords you have to make or anything like that. Once you can visualize it, you can start integrating it into your playing right away. So I've got this lesson split into two parts. In this video, we're going to go through the theory portion as well as the first half of the lead that I just played. If you'd like to learn the second half of the lead, download the tablature for everything, download the MP3 jam tracks, which I have in multiple tempos, so that you can take all this stuff, tie it together, and start practicing how to use it. You can get those extra materials by going to activemelody.com, go to the weekly lessons page, and do a search for EP537. Okay, so the first thing that I want to mention is this blues that we're going to be looking at is in the key of A, and it's a 1-4-5 chord structure. Really basic, 3 chords. Our 1 chord is an A, 4 chord is a D, 5 chord is an E. Now, we're not going to be playing bar chords. We're just going to be playing triads, which are simple little 3-note chords. In fact, we're really not even going to be strumming chords. We're just going to be targeting those notes as we play our lead. But the first thing I want to do is I want to show you how to play or visualize these triads. And we're going to start with the A right here. And so to play this, ring fingers on the 7th fret 4th string, middle fingers on the 6th fret 3rd string, and then your index fingers on the 5th fret 2nd string. It makes a little stair step, and it's really easy to play and easy to visualize. Now, the note that to really pay attention to, or well, you should pay attention to all of them eventually, but for starters, is that 4th string, 7th fret 4th string. That's our A note. So that should tell you the name of the chord. So that make a little connection in your mind. Okay, A note, A chord, A triad. That means if you want to use this triad for any other chord, you just need to know the names of the notes on your 4th string to do that. Okay, another way to understand this triad is to just think about your A chord using the E shape. This is coming from the cage system. But if I played strings 4, 3, and 2, when I was barring that, I'm playing the same notes here, right? So that's another way to just connect it to something. I'm trying to give you connection points in your mind. Okay, so that's our first triad. Now, the thing to mention about this is the order of intervals here. So the lowest note, that's our root. That's our 1 interval, our first interval. The next string up is our 3rd interval, and the next string on top of that is the 5th interval. So we have 1, 3, 5. Now, if you don't know what those numbers mean, that's just the numbers from the major scale. It's the A major scale. That's the first note in the major scale. That's the 3rd, and that's the 5th. That's all those numbers mean. But it's important to know your intervals because you can do things with that information once you know it. For example, the 3rd interval, you can always just flat it, which means you go down 1 fret, and you play that with the other 2, and now you've got a minor chord. So that's all a minor chord is. You take your 3rd interval and you just flat it. You go down 1 fret and you've got a minor chord. So anyway, that's one little thing to point out. The next chord we're going to look at is our D chord, and we're going to be using the A shape. Now I'm going to be looking at strings 1, 2, and 3 like this. The top part of the A shape. That's how I always describe it. It's the easiest way to think about it, for me anyway. So to do that, index finger on the 5th fret 1st string, and then we've got strings 2 and 3 on the 7th fret. And the order of intervals for this chord voicing is the same. So we have the lowest note is our 1st, the next string up is our 3rd interval, and then the note on top there is the 5th interval. So root, 3rd, 5th. Now you'll see that I've intentionally picked these triads with this type of interval so that it's always root, 3rd, 5th in that order. It's just going to make it so much easier to understand what's going on here and be able to utilize this stuff. But just know that chords don't have to fall in that order. It can be 3rd, 5th, root, or root, fifth, third. They can get jumbled up. Those are just that's called inversions. That's all an inversion is. It's just changing the order. Okay, so we have our A triad, we have our D triad, and now our E triad. We're going to stay in the same neighborhood. I'm intentionally trying to stay right here. So I have to ask myself, where's my nearest E in this neighborhood? I don't want to come down here. I don't want to come up here. Oh yeah, there's the E chord using the C shape. But I don't need to play all of that. I just need the triad. So here's how I'm going to do it. So I have my ring finger on the 7th fret 5th string. I have my middle finger on the 6th fret 4th string. And then I have my index finger up here on the 4th fret 3rd string. And when I play those 3 notes, I'm playing an E chord. And the order of the intervals is root, 3rd, 5th, just like the other ones. So I mean, I'm only mentioning that because I could play, that would be an E chord as well, or that would be an E chord as well. But the order isn't the same where it's root, 3rd, 5th. I'm trying to keep it consistent. So let's just do a quick recap then. We have our A, we have our D, and we have our E. So before you do anything, just be able to play those and just get those under your fingers and understand root, 3rd, 5th, kind of where they are. You're going to see why, actually in this next step, you're going to see why we need to know those intervals. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to make a little melody out of this triad. And we're going to start with that 3rd interval. So we're going to go down a half step and slide into it like that. So you're using your middle finger for that. And then we're going to come up to the 5th. And then we're going to come to this note that's one step above our 3rd interval. So you have this. And then we're going to slide into it again, just like we did at the start. And then we're going to come down to our root. So when you put that together, it goes like this. You can see that I'm really just playing that triad, the chord, but I'm kind of sliding into it. I'm hitting one note above it and coming, into it from below like that again. But it's giving it, even though it's just a chord, it's starting to sound like a little melody. And that's because it really is a melody. It's a melody that's rooted in that chord. Now watch this. See, there I went to the 4 chord. I went to the D. So I did the same thing. I slid into the 3rd interval, came up to the 5th, went one note above the 3rd, slid back into the 3rd, and then to my root. I did this, followed the same concept as what I did over the 1 chord. Can you see that? Do you follow me with this? So that's why it's important to know those intervals, because I can apply the knowledge from what I just did for the 1 chord, I can apply it to the other chords. So now we're going to go to the 5 chord, we're going to go to our E chord, and we're going to apply the same thing. So we're going to slide into that 3rd interval, go to our 5th, and then I have to reach down here with my pinky to that 7th fret 4th string. That's the one note that's above the 3rd interval. So we have, and then we slide back into it, and then down to our root note. So we have, okay, so before we move any further and start playing a lead, this is your first assignment, is just to get that under your fingers and just practice that. Now, for those of you that are premium members, you could put on the jam track and just try playing along with the jam track using that. You might start with the slower tempo version and just sort of get comfortable with it, and then you can work up to the faster one. But you don't have to jump right into a lead yet. For now, we're just doing this. Back to the 1. All right, so here's another little idea you can apply to that. You can go, you can hit 2 strings when you slide into it, right? They're the 2 strings, they're strings, the 5th interval and the 3rd interval, but you can slide into both of them. So you can go, so you can start doing that kind of thing as well. So hopefully you're starting to get some ideas for how you can start using this just right away in like very little time. All right, so now it's going to get even more fun. We're going to introduce another layer to this. So we've got our root, 3rd, and 5th, right? So from our fifth, looking at the A chord there, that'd be that 5th fret 2nd string, we're going to come up, we're going to skip a fret, we're going to stay on that 2nd string, we're going to skip a fret, and we're going to come up to the 7th fret, and then we're going to go up one more fret, which would be our 8th fret. So we have 5, that's our 6th interval, and then we have our flat 7 interval. When you hear flat 7, just think blues. Flat 7 is just a blues. It's like your dominant chord, your dominant 7 chord. When you see a 7 chord, like a G7 or something in a chord chart, it sounds a little more bluesy, right? And it's because of that flat 7. So when I'm playing, so back to our A chord, we have 5th interval, 6th, and then 7th. And just do them all in that same string there. And then walk it back down. Now watch what we can do now. Let's add that to what we already have. So we have now it's starting to sound like the blues. In fact, it's starting to sound like a very sophisticated melody, but it's really just the chord to me. I mean, it's the chord and then some intervals on top of it. But since you've got the formula, you can apply that to your other chords. So here's your 4 chords. See how cool that is? Back to your 1. Let's do it for the 5 chord. And you can bend into it. You don't have to slide into the note to that flat 7. You can bend. Just do a half bend. All right, so now with that information, we have places we can go as those chords happen. So if you're playing the blues and there's the D chord, you go to the 4 chord. You can play that, but you can also mix in your major and minor pentatonic scale. You're not limited to that. There's no formula where you just do one thing when you're playing a lead. All the other stuff that you know, you can apply as well. So let's just listen to what that would sound like if I were to go, like as a call, I could go. So I was just throwing in some pentatonic stuff, but I was also outlining those chords, which gave the solo definition. And it's very simple. Like, we're not doing anything super complicated here. I'm just showing you exactly what I showed you there. And I was working in, some minor and major pentatonic. But that's really it. It's just like you have to, and you'll get better at doing that the more you practice it. So again, take that jam track and really work on that. Just doing that. Now let's listen to the first part of the lead. And actually all of this solo now is going to totally make sense because you're going to understand where it all comes from. We'll listen to the first part and then we'll talk about how to play it. All right, so I played this. All right, so the first part of this you already know. That's just playing out of that A triad, sliding into the 3rd interval. And then we come up to the 5th, 6th, slide into the 7th, and then I went like this. So that's going into the major pentatonic scale. So 5, 7 on the 1st string, and then back to 5. And then we're just going to walk it back down. That's the flat 7, 6th, and 5th. So we have. Now watch this. That gets me, you can hear it. Even without the jam track, you can hear the 4 chord. So I came down to that 7th fret 3rd string, and then I walked chromatically 5, 6, 7 on the 2nd string. And now I'm in position. Now that's the 3rd interval of my D chord. And I can do all that stuff over the D chord. Let's listen to that next part. So when I came into the D chord, it's the same thing we've already done. Sliding into the 3rd. There's the 5th. And then we go one step above the 3rd. And then come down to the root, right? And then I went like this. Little bluesy thing. So that's just minor pentatonic scale, but actually this first thing is getting into the flat 7 of my D chord, right? Like a D7. So that 8th fret first string, I hit that note, and then I also hit the 7th fret 2nd string. And you play them together. This note's in your major pentatonic. This note's in your minor pentatonic. And when you play them together, you get that real awesome kind of Chuck Berry blues thing. So, and then watch this. That's just walking down the pentatonic, pattern 1 of your minor pentatonic for A. So, and then we're gonna go. There's a quick slide there. So it's walking it down, and then there's that slide from the 8th fret to the 7th fret on the 3rd string. We come down to the 5th fret 3rd string, and then 7th fret 4th string. This little slide is hitting that blue note. That's a blue note, which is in your blues scale. The only difference between your minor pentatonic scale and the blues scale is that one note. That note, you add that to your minor pentatonic to get the blues scale. So, all right, so after we walk down that minor pentatonic, I'm in position down here to go ahead and get into that E chord, doing the same little thing that we've done, right? So it's sliding into the 3rd interval, 5th, one note above the 3rd interval, and then slide back into it. So now watch this. So there's 5th, 6th, slide into the 7th interval, or the flat 7. So it's the same thing. So after I play that flat 7 of my E chord, I'm going to come up here and play. So that's 5th fret 2nd string, 7th fret 3rd string, 7th fret 2nd string, and then back to the 5th fret 2nd string. This is all, I'm thinking major pentatonic scale for the key of the song. So we have, and then after that I went, that's just a slide from my minor pentatonic into my major for the key of the song. So we have 8, 7, 5 on the 2nd string. And it starts with a slide. And then we go back to the 7th and back to the 5th fret. So from that E we have. All right, and then we have strings 1 and 2. This is Chuck Berry. This is just minor pentatonic now. So strings 1 and 2 on the 5th fret, 7th fret 3rd string, 5th fret 2nd string, 5th fret 3rd string, 7th fret 4th string. So you have. So after that, I went like this. So 7th fret, 4th string, strings 3 and 2. So. And then there's just a hammer on from the 5th fret to the 6th fret on the 3rd string. And then we go 5, 7 on the 2nd string, and then strings 1 and 2, just to complete that A idea. So you have this. Okay, I'm going to wrap up this part 1 video right there. That's a lot of information. I hope you're excited about this and have a few ideas that you can leave with and start applying to your playing right away. If you don't have access to the jam track, try playing along with another jam track, but take these ideas and start working them into your playing, really starting to hear them and get them into your thoughts, because this is just a springboard. This is going to lead to all kinds of other things. All right, we'll see you in part 2.